Yo, what is good people, Ben from Lover of Tech, and we are back with another video. This time, camera comparison. Galaxy S24 versus iPhone 15 versus the Pixel 8. So yes, definitive camera comparison. We are going to be testing everything, daylight, low light, pictures and videos to see how these phones match up. So without wasting much time, let's get into the camera specs and then back into the camera comparison. First of all, a big thank you to the kind folks at Vodafone UK for supplying both the iPhone 15 and the Galaxy S24 for testing and review. There will be links in the description below for the latest deals that you can find on the iPhone 15 and the Galaxy S24 on Vodafone UK. And of course, without them supplying these devices, we would not be able to get these definitive camera comparisons to you, so much appreciated to them. Now, this is me assuming that you know the camera specifications for these three devices so we can get into the camera comparison as soon as possible. My advice is that the best way to watch this is on the largest display possible in 4K 60 at the highest resolution and frame rate with headphones on so you can hear the audio when it comes to the videos. There will be chapters linked in the description below, but definitely sit back, relax, watch it from beginning to end. It will be worth your while. Now, let's get into the main camera comparison. We are starting with the front-facing camera in 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recorder mode for the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. Just seeing how the image rendition is, detail, sharpness, dynamic range, colors, and of course, stabilization. Quick run. When I'm recording in the 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recording mode on the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8, just seeing how the image quality, rendition, colors, sharpness, detail, dynamic range, as well as stabilization changes at 30 FPS in 4K. Quick run. We are still in the 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recorder mode on the front-facing camera on the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. The only difference is with the iPhone 15 and the Galaxy S24, we are in their cinematic video portrait mode blur effect. Whereas this is not something you can do on the Pixel 8. We're going to run through a couple of the differences of the benefit that doing this mode on the iPhone as well as the Samsung Galaxy S24 has. With the Samsung, while you're recording in this mode, you can of course change the background blur, make it stronger. The default is on level 5. You can completely remove it, bring it back to the default, change the background blur effect, big circle, circle point, glitch, and then the original blur. And you can of course pause recording and continue on the same clip. On the iPhone, you cannot make any changes while you're recording, but the benefit is it saves all the metadata, so in post you can edit it and change the blur intensity, blur position. It's a great flexibility to have. Again, no such ability to record in the background blur effects for video on a front-facing camera on a Pixel 8. We are now recording in a 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recorder mode on the rear cameras on the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. Again, just seeing how the image quality, rendition, sharpness, detail, dynamic range, and also stabilization is like. Quick run. Now, since we are recording in the 4K 30 frames per second video recorder mode, you do have the flexibility to change cameras. We're going to switch to the ultra-wide lens. Quick run. Let's move over to 2x, 2x, 2x. Again, we'll stop. The advantage you get with the Galaxy S24 is it does have a dedicated 3x zoom. We're gonna have to digitally zoom in on the iPhone 15, as well as digitally zoom in on the Pixel 8, just to see the clarity difference. No running, just a nice, steady hand. Now back to the 1X. let's explain some of the benefits that we do get when we are recording in 4K 30 on a rear camera. With the Galaxy S24, it does have the most flexible 4K 30 recorder mode out of the three. You can pause recording and continue on the same clip, take pictures, and most importantly, as well as switching between the rear lenses, you can flip to the selfie camera. As you can see, flip to the selfie camera, still enabled to take pictures at the same time, pause recording and continue on the same clip, and then flip back to the rear cameras. Again, with the Pixel 8, you can do pretty much the same. Pause recording, take pictures, and continue on the same clip. Switch between the rear lenses, but you cannot flip to the selfie. The iPhone still does not allow you to pause recording and continue on the same clip. You can take pictures, but you cannot flip it to the selfie either. Really limited when it comes to flexibility of recording in 4K 30. We've now switched over to the 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recorder mode on the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15, and the Pixel 8. Seeing how the image quality is like, colors, rendition, dynamic range, stabilization at the higher frame rate. Quick run. Time to explain some of the limitations and the benefits of shooting in 4K 60 across all three camera systems. The Pixel 8 has got the most flexible 4K 60 recording out of all these three cameras. You can switch between the rear lenses, going from the wide to the ultra wide as you've seen right now. Obviously the 2X is doing the digital crop, but the two optical lenses, the main wide and the ultra wide, you can switch between them on the rear cameras. You can also pause recording and continue on the same clip. The iPhone follows suit next. Same, from the ultra wide you can move to while you're recording on the same clip between the wide and the ultra wide. You can't pause recording and continue, but you can at least switch between the optical lenses. Samsung, on the other hand, for some reason, you cannot do this on the S24. This is something that they've reserved for the Galaxy S24 Ultra. You cannot switch between the wide to the ultra wide to the 3X dedicated. You can flip to the selfie, pause recording, take pictures, and continue on the same clip. As you can see, the lens you start from on the rear, you can still move to the selfie camera. You can't switch between the rears. And I'm going to express it right now. Samsung, for you to just leave this for the Galaxy S24 at this stage of these smartphones and limit it on the S24 Plus and S24 is a massive disappointment. Really not happy about this limitation, and this is something that they are definitely not going to fix in software. They're probably going to leave on to the next version, and this is probably down to the fact that regionally this is split between the Exynos 2400 and the 8 Gen 3. We've got the Exynos, and maybe this is why they've done it. Really disappointing. And back to the rear cameras. We're still in the 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recorder mode for the S24, iPhone 15, Pixel 8, but we've now switched to the ultra wide. Again, just proving that with the Pixel and the iPhone, they do not need to stop recording to be able to switch between them. This is more for the benefit of the Galaxy S24 Ultra, the S24, apologies, because it is limited to doing that. Quick run. You can still flip to the selfie, but let me just show you that what you're seeing here, this is a digital crop on the ultra wide. This is not switching to the 1 or the 2. This is up to 2x. This is a digital crop on the ultra wide because you can see the image get really soft. Still in the 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recorder mode, but we are in the 2x lossless crop on the main wide sensor on the S24, iPhone 15, and the Pixel 8. Again, just a steady walk just to see how it handles when it comes to image quality and stabilization. Still in the 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recorder mode on the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15, and the Pixel 8. Now in the 3x zoom mode, which of course the Galaxy S24 is using its dedicated 3x optical sensor, while the other two are still doing a digital crop on the main wide sensor. We are now in the 8K 30 frames per second video recorder mode versus the 4K 30 on the iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8, whereas we are shooting in 8K 30 on the Galaxy S24 on the main 50 megapixel wide sensor. Let's see how the image quality is like, color rendition, detail, sharpness, dynamic range, most importantly, stabilization. Quick run. We are now in the super steady mode for the Galaxy S24, action mode for the iPhone 15, and the max stabilization for the Pixel 8. For the Galaxy S24, it does shoot this at 2.5K 1440p QHD, up to 60 FPS, and with the iPhone 15, it does do this at 2.8K, up to 60 FPS. We're starting with the ultra-wide on the Galaxy S24 and the iPhone 15, whereas it is in a 1x mode on the Pixel 8. Most likely it's actually using ultra-wide and cropping in, but it does say 1x. So we're going to do an intense, fast run. Still in the max stabilization mode across all cameras. We've now switched over to the 1x on the Galaxy S24 and the iPhone 15 to match what's on the Pixel 8. And let's do a fast run. Still in a respective max stabilization mode across all cameras. We're now in the 2x mode for the iPhone 15 and the 2x mode for the Pixel 8. There isn't a 2x mode for the Galaxy S24, but on the S24 Ultra, there is a 2x mode. So again, another mode that's missing on the S24 and S24 Plus. Let's do a fast run. So we are now recording in the 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recorder mode on the Galaxy S24, Pixel 8 and the iPhone 15. Start with the main wide rear camera with me in the frame as the subject, just to see how it handles someone in the frame with the environment. So we're going to walk back slowly. And we're going to stop and switch to the ultra-wide lens across all three. And again, just seeing how the image quality is like, we're going to walk back slowly. And we're going to stop, switch to the 2x. I'm going to step back until I'm told I'm good in frame. We're still in the 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recorder mode on the Galaxy S24, Pixel 8 and the iPhone 15. We are in the 3x zoom mode, which is optical on the Galaxy S24, and a digital crop on the main wide sensor on the iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. Just seeing how the image quality is like with me in the frame as the subject. We've now switched over to the 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recorder mode on the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. Again, with me in the frame as the subject, just seeing how the image quality is like in a high frame rate in 4K. Walking back one step at a time. as stated before, the limitation with the Galaxy S24 with the rear cameras in 4K 60 means we cannot switch to the ultra-wide and the dedicated 3x zoom on the fly. But with the iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8, you can go to the ultra-wide seamlessly without having to stop recording. We're going to come back to the 1X. We're still in the 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recorder mode. Now with the ultra-wide cameras, again, for the convenience of the S24, we had to stop recording and switch to the ultra-wide, which the Pixel 8 and the iPhone 15 don't need that, but the, Galaxy S24 does. So yeah, here we are. One step at a time, going back, seeing how the image quality is like with the ultra-wide, with me in the frame as the subject. And stop. We're still in the 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recorder mode on the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. We're in the 2X mode, which is doing a lossless crop on the main sensor for all three devices. Slow step back. And stop. We're still in the 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recorder mode on the Galaxy S24, Pixel 8 and the iPhone 15. We're in the 3x zoom mode, which is optical on the Galaxy S24, compared to still doing a digital crop on the main wide sensor on the iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. And just seeing how the image quality difference is like, with me in the frame as the subject. We are now in the 8K video recorder mode in 30 FPS on the Galaxy S24 compared to 4K 30 on the Pixel 8 and the iPhone 15. Again, with me in the frame as the subject, we're just seeing how the image quality, rendition, sharpness, detail, colors is like when shooting in 8K. Slow walk. And stop. We are now in their respective video blur mode for the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. Now with the Galaxy S24 and the iPhone 15, you can do this in the 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recorder mode. The default blur on the iPhone 15 is simulated to f2.8. The level on the Galaxy S24 is blur level 5. And then the blur rating for the Pixel 8 is blur 75 by default. Again, a couple of things to consider when you're shooting in this particular mode. On the Galaxy S24, you do have the option to actually change the blur intensity, which we're going to demonstrate now. Which you can move it between 5 to 7, all the way down to the end where it completely removes the blur. And you can bring it back to the default 5 and change the blur effects. So you can go from the standard blur, big circle, glitch, color tone, back to the standard blur. You can't do this while you're recording on the iPhone 15, but again, as stated, once you're finished recording, in post, you can change the blur intensity, blur position, so really good and powerful for that. No level of flexibility on the Pixel 8, and the Pixel 8's blur mode is limited to just 1080p at 24 FPS with no 4K option at all. We're now in a 2X mode on the Galaxy S24 and the iPhone 15. You cannot do a 2X mode on the Pixel 8. Still in a respective video blur mode for the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. We are in a 3X zoom mode for the Galaxy S24 and the iPhone 15. The weird thing is, this mode is hidden. You have to press and hold on the 2 and then scroll and zoom to 3x. And for some reason on the Galaxy S24, this is still doing a digital crop on the main 50 megapixel wide sensor. This is not switching to the 3x dedicated optical zoom. I don't know why this is the case, because on the Galaxy S22 series, remembering the S22 Ultra, it used the 3x dedicated zoom. You're not doing that here. Now, this is the new dual record mode on the Galaxy S24. This does replace director's view. And on the Galaxy S24 and the S24 Plus, it's limited to 1080p 30 FPS. On the Galaxy S24 Ultra, you can do this in 4K 30. And I still do like it on here because you do have the option to save it in the picture-in-picture mode and then switch between the lenses that you've selected. So you can pick any of the 2 lenses, any of the 2 at the back when it comes to the 3 lenses, wide, main, and of course ultra wide, as well as the 3x zoom and the front facing camera. And you can save it as the picture-in-picture mode, pause recording, take pictures all on the same clip. And of course you do have the option to save it as 2 separate individual files at the same time. I think this feature is amazing. I just wish this was in 4K UHD 30 frames a second, like the Galaxy S24 Ultra, Samsung. Quick autofocusing test on the iPhone 15 in 4K 30 on the main camera. Quick autofocusing test on the Galaxy S24 in 4K 30 on the main camera. Quick autofocusing test on the Pixel 8 in 4K 30 on the main camera. When I'm recording in a 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recording mode on the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15 and Pixel 8, and just seeing how the low light performance is like between the 3. Of course, starting with the main wide sensor. Switch to the ultra wide. 2x, 2x, 2x. Yes. And 3x. Maximum zoom. Maximum zoom. Maximum zoom is 6x on the iPhone 15, 12x on the Galaxy S24, and 7x on the Pixel. Back to the 1x. We're now recording in the 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recorder mode on the front-facing camera on the iPhone 15, S24, and the Pixel 8, and just seeing how the low light performance is like on a front-facing camera. We're now recording in the 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recorder mode. And this time it's with the rear camera, with me in the frame as the subject. We're just going to be stationary for this one, so no movement. And we're just seeing how the low light performance is like. Let's switch to the ultrawide and see how much performance we lose. It's not entirely recommended to go to the ultrawide and low light. And let's move back to the 1x. We're now in the cinematic mode on the iPhone 15, 4K UHD 30 frames per second. I'm just seeing if it performs in low light. Now, it is indicating that it does need more light, so it looks like without the flash, it does struggle to simulate the background blur for the video. We've now activated the flash in the 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recorder mode for cinematic background blur for the iPhone 15. It is still indicating that it needs more light. Although we do have the flash on, it seems like the cinematic mode for video in low light is a struggle on the iPhone 15. So first, we're trying the video portrait mode on the Galaxy S24 Ultra in low light. We're just going to stick to the 1x mode on the main wide sensor. And we're just seeing how it performs when doing the background blur for video, 4K 30. We're still in the video portrait mode in 4K UHD 30 frames per second on the main wide sensor on the Galaxy S24. We're now using a flashlight to see if it helps it any more, and just compare the difference between doing it with and without the flash. So we're now in the video blur mode for the Pixel 8, which is limited to 1080p 24 FPS and only works on the main wide sensor. Again, we're just seeing how it performs in low light. We are still in the video blur mode for the Pixel 8. We've now activated the flash just to see if it helps it more in this low light condition. Okay, now let's move over to the pictures between the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8, starting with the daytime images. And we are going to kick things off with the landscape shots, starting with the ultra-wide. And when you're looking at it straight away, the one that sticks out the most is going to be the Galaxy S24, but that's more down to just the vibrancy of the image looking kind of like a already pre-edited image. What's actually more accurate to the day felt a lot more like the Pixel 8, and where the balance of the two really struck well was the iPhone 15. Again, all three of them are actually really good. The field of view is a lot better on the Pixel 8 and the iPhone 15. The Galaxy S24 is more of a 0.6 ultra wide now, so the perspective isn't as ultra wide. But again, all three of them are good. It's really just down to your personal choice and what one you like and prefer. Now moving over to the main wide sensor, again, things do balance out a bit more this time around, but the Pixel 8 is still very consistent to what we're seeing, to how the scene was on the day. Again, this time of year in the UK, it's nothing but rain, overcast, gloominess. It kind of feels dark the whole day. So having daylight or sunlight to test dynamic range, this is not the time of the year. So we're just working with the scenery of what we got, just for consistency of previous. And again, I'll definitely say the iPhone 15 looks really good, like a nice balance, but the Pixel 8 is a lot more realistic, whereas the S24 seems more pleasing to the eye in terms of a pre-edited, vibrant looking images. So yeah, just take that for what it is. When we move over to the 2x zoom, I feel like the image quality on the Galaxy S24 drops a lot more. It just doesn't look as sharp compared to what we're seeing on the Pixel 8 and the iPhone 15, especially on the Pixel 8. The Pixel 8 definitely for me in this particular situation, then the iPhone 15, and then the Galaxy S24. When we of course do move over to the 3x zoom, yes, the Galaxy S24 definitely claws it back. You can see it in the resolution and the detail that you're getting on the grass because it is using a dedicated 3x zoom lens. I still feel this 3x zoom lens it's a bit long in the tooth. It does need updating and improving in my personal opinion, but again, in this particular situation, it does look the best out of the three, followed by the iPhone 15 and then the Pixel 8. Now, yes, of course, there is an extended zoom mode available on the Galaxy S24. The rest do go up to ×8 on the Pixel 8. You've got 10x on the iPhone 15, and the Galaxy S24 is at 10x. In this particular situation, yes, the S24 does look slightly better, but it's very novel at this point. I don't think these phones are here for extreme extended zoom, because even when you go into the 20x zoom on the Galaxy S24, and then into the 30x zoom, it really just isn't anything to write home about. So I think the limit for this is up to 5-6x. Beyond that, I think just call it a day and just appreciate that particular focal length up to 5 and 6x on the S24, and for the rest, yeah, up to 3x. I think it's just about okay. Now, all these three cameras do have a high resolution main camera sensor, with the Galaxy S24 using a 50 megapixel main sensor, the iPhone 15 using 48 megapixels, and the Pixel 8 using a 50 megapixel main sensor. But again, the high resolution mode is only reserved for the Pixel 8 Pro, not for the Pixel 8. This is something you have on the Galaxy S24. And in fact, the Galaxy S24 in the Pro mode does allow you to shoot 50 megapixel RAW. But again, we're just demonstrating the image processing with JPEG to match what we have on the iPhone 15, but there is more flexibility on the Galaxy S24. Again, this is what we're seeing in the high resolution mode for the main camera sensor for the Galaxy S24 and the iPhone 15. Hopefully Google, maybe next time, will activate this for the normal 8 and non-Pro. Time for some front-facing camera with the selfie images on these three devices, and I would say all three do really good. The thing that really stands out to me in terms of the differentiating factor is the white balancing on the Pixel 8, which is slightly warmer. The things that match up well when it comes to the field of view is a lot better on the Pixel 8, then followed by the iPhone 15 and the Galaxy S24. But yeah, I think the selfie images on all three of these devices are really good. Which one do I prefer? I actually really like the look of the Pixel 8, then the S24, then the iPhone 15. But honestly, all of them are looking great. Now, when you look at the portrait mode performance, what's so strange about the iPhone 15 is when you go into portrait mode, it crops in and you lose field of view. And what's strange about this is when you actually take a normal picture, right? If it captures enough depth information, you can actually change that picture to a portrait mode image and you still get the field of view. So I think that's still the preferred way. I hope Apple stops doing this because it's just not needed. The portrait mode performance in terms of the blur though, I like the natural look
of the iPhone, then followed by the S24, and then the Pixel 8. But in this particular one for the selfie, all of them are actually doing really good. Can't go wrong with either. So last set of daylight images with the rear camera with me in the frame as the subject. Let's start with the ultra wide. In this particular situation, I would say that the iPhone 15 actually strikes the balance with me in the frame as a subject. Then I would say the S24, maybe not because of the image processing itself, because it is a bit more saturated than I would like, but in terms of just the clarity and the exposure and the shadow details, really good compared to the Pixel 8, which is a bit too dark in this particular situation. It might seem a bit more realistic, but I would have loved it to have at least lifted the shadows a little bit. So yeah, that's the order of preference that I like out of the three. Moving over to the main wide sensor, yes, now the Pixel claws it back. I definitely prefer what I'm seeing on the Pixel 8, then followed by the iPhone 15, and then the Galaxy S24. It's just more how the Galaxy S24 renders my skin that I don't prefer out of the two. So yeah, definitely I give it in that order. When we move over to the 2X, again, the image detail on the S24 is slightly softer than the other two. The detail on the Pixel 8 really nails it well, followed by the iPhone 15 and the Galaxy S24. And of course, we'll move over to the 3X. The 3X actually holds up well on the iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. With the dedicated 3X on the S24, it's looking good with me in the frame as a subject, but the other two hold up a lot better. But again, having a dedicated 3X is the way to go. Now, here is where things get really strange. This is the high resolution mode in JPEG for both these devices, i.e. S24, iPhone 15, Pixel 8 doesn't have it. And the image processing was really blown out. And I know it's gonna look like I was trying not to favor the Galaxy S24. If you look at the metadata information, which I will show you right now, you can clearly see that this is the results I was getting from the high resolution 50 megapixel JPEG mode on the Galaxy S24. And I was really starting to doubt myself that what is going on, because I don't think I've really experienced this before, and I wasn't getting this issue on the Galaxy S24 Ultra. And when I moved over and did the same shot again, these are the results I was getting. And honestly, I just feel like this needs work in its current state. I don't know what's going on. I don't know whether this is the ISP processing of the Exynos 2400 going a bit crazy. I don't know if this will be the same for the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. Again, let me know in the comment section below. If you do want to see a camera comparison between the different chipsets, I am still working on it to make sure it happens. If it's not live already by the time you're watching this, it's a strange outcome that I'm seeing right here on this one. So I thought, let me just put it out there. Taking 2 tries, this is the results that I got. Now moving over to portrait mode, and again, I can hear it loud and clear. The Galaxy S24 does not have any blur effect. And I looked at this afterwards and I thought maybe I was going crazy, maybe we missed it. And I looked at the metadata and it did actually pick up as a portrait image. It didn't activate the background blur compared to what you see in the Pixel 8, which, you know, it missed the gap in between my arms. It's very over exaggerated. I don't really like the look of the Pixel 8, but again, it did activate it. And you do have the iPhone 15 looking the best out of the 3. So this was on the first day that I did it. So I went back another day, realized it, took it, and yes, that portrait mode activated on the Galaxy S24. This is on a separate day, right? At the time of this recording, this was maybe a day or 2 ago as I'm recording this right now. Went back, took it all again on the 1Xs on all of them, so it was even and matched. And you can see that it's slightly cropped because it's more of a 1.5x on the Pixel 8. And then you're seeing it now, the portrait mode is a lot better on the Galaxy S24. So again, giving it a fair shot. So you guys don't think that I'm trying to unfavor the S24, trying to make this as fair and as consistent as possible, but you can see it, that's the difference when it comes. Now to the 2X was the original first day. So in this particular situation, the 2X mode looks really good, especially on the S24 and the iPhone 15. I still think the portrait mode on the Pixel 8 needs a lot more work. It's a bit over exaggerated. It's not really looking as subtle and as flattering as what you're seeing on the iPhone 15 and the S24. So I'll definitely give it to those two. And then of course, 3X portrait mode, chef's kiss. That focal length equivalence of around 70 to 85 millimeter for portrait mode on the 3X lens is still one of my favorite. And of course, having that dedicated 3X on the S24 allows it to be able to do that. I love the look of it. It's just so on point, really good. The others can't do it, but again, just take into consideration that if you take a digital 3X image on the iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8, if these phones capture enough depth information, you can add the portrait mode blur after the fact in post. So just consider, but again, out of the box straight away from the camera, that option is what you get on the Galaxy S24 at 1x, 2x, and 3x. It's looking better. So this is the test of the minimum focusing distance on the main camera between the Galaxy S24, the iPhone 15, and also the Pixel 8. But what's interesting, as you're seeing right now, is that the Pixel 8 actually has a macro mode available. This is usually reserved for the Pro versions of these devices, or the Ultra version of these devices. But Google this time around decided to add a macro mode into the Ultrawide for the Pixel 8. This is such a great thing, and I honestly think this isn't a feature that should be reserved for Pro and Ultra devices. It can also happen in the standard base model flagship devices as well. This is a good look on Google. I have to give it to Google on this particular one here, and I hope with Samsung and Apple, they follow suit. Now for the capture speed test between the S24 iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8, what I did was do a run up to the camera and also did a jump. These were the two separate sections, and it was just an attempt to see in their fastest capture mode which camera was able to capture the most amount of images and also freeze the frame with less blur and artifacting. Again, whether this is the most accurate way to determine capture speed is another thing, but again, this is just a test that I did with running up to the camera and then doing a jumping motion to see which phone captured the most, and it looked like the iPhone did the best overall by capturing the most amount of images and less blurring and artifacting, followed by the Galaxy S24 with the Pixel 8 capturing the least images and still being able to freeze the image. But again, have a look and see for yourself. Let's go into dark mode with some low light images of the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8, starting with the landscape images. And what I like to do with my low light images is take it in low light without night mode active, then night mode, and then with flash where it's relevant and available. The reason why I like to do this is capture speed difference. When you capture without night mode, it's a lot quicker compared to night mode. Yes, the exposure is better, but night mode, you have to be still, you have to be steady. It's not always ideal. So I like to see the performance difference and see, is the flash also better when needed? So let's start without night mode first. And with the ultra wide straight away, you gotta give it to the Pixel 8. The Pixel 8 just looks the best. It's clean, it's well detailed, and then followed by the Galaxy S24, whereas the iPhone 15 really doesn't hold up well without night mode. Now moving over to the main wide sensor, again, the consistency of the Pixel 8 is the one that's really pulling through well. And then the iPhone 15. And the reason why is the image processing on the Galaxy S24 without night mode active is just not something I favor so much. Again, the magenta light hue is something that's synonymous in Samsung phones. It seems better controlled this time around, but again, the image processing really isn't representative of how the scene was looking. That's more down to the Pixel 8 and iPhone 15. And in fact, although the noise of the image on iPhone 15 is slightly higher, the exposure on it could be favored by a lot more people, but I prefer the Pixel 8. It's a much cleaner image. Moving over to the 2x mode, again, the consistency of the Pixel 8 is just unmatched. The exposure, you could say, is slightly better on the iPhone 15, but again, it's a noisier image, so I prefer the Pixel 8. And the image processing and the softness of the image on the S24 and the 2x mode, definitely not preferred compared to the other two. Now the 3x, yes, you do switch to the dedicated 3x zoom, hence why we're matching it. Is digital on the iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. And in this particular situation, the image is still noisy on the iPhone 15. It's so much cleaner on the Pixel 8. And of course, it is a better image overall in terms of the color processing for the S24, but it is a noisy image compared to what you're seeing in the Pixel 8. Let's double back. Now we activate night mode, and you can see the stark difference and improvement that you're getting on the ultra wide, especially for the iPhone 15. If you compare it to not being able to see compared to what we're having right now, night mode is a great difference. And even the image processing on the S24, much better colors compared to what we have, and the Pixel 8 is just nice and consistent all the way through, which I love to see. When we go over to the main wide sensor, again, night mode greatly improves the color processing on the S24. So if not even for the exposure, use night mode for the fact that the image processing and the color processing is just much better and greatly improved. The Pixel 8, consistent. I think it's the one that's winning it through, and then the iPhone 15 holding up well. And I'm really liking the look of how these three are coming up with night mode. When you go over to the 2x mode, yes, the image is still slightly softer on the S24, but again, night mode does improve the image processing. The iPhone 15 holds up well, and the Pixel 8, definitely the one that takes it for me out of the three. There's still that magenta light hue on the Galaxy S24 that's synonymous. It's still a pet peeve of mine, but again, Pixel 8, iPhone 15, S24 greatly improved. Moving over to the 3X, in this particular situation, again, Google, way consistent with it, clearest image, best image processing. Then I would say it's a toss-up between the iPhone 15 and S24. I'm gonna give it to the S24 slightly based on the fact that the image of design has got better detail, but I would say the color processing is better on the iPhone 15, but you do get better detail on the S24 because it is using the dedicated 3X. So I'm gonna follow the S24 on this particular one, but Google, well done on this particular one with and without night mode for the landscape images in low light. Now with the front-facing camera images with the selfies, again, same sequence that I tried to replicate without night mode first, then night mode, and then with the front screen flash. And that was with the standard pictures and then portrait mode. Now with the standard pictures, definitely what you're gonna be seeing here is that the image that you're getting from the Galaxy S24 and the Pixel 8 are the ones to really go by. When we come to the softness of the image, especially when it comes to the front screen flash, the iPhone doesn't really hold up well. But then when we go over to what we're seeing with the portrait mode, you do not get the option to do portrait mode and night mode together on the iPhone 15. This is something you can do on the S24 and the Pixel 8, and the results that you're getting on the S24 and the Pixel 8 are so good and consistent. So that's a limiting factor on the iPhone 15. This is a synonymous thing. For you to be able to use portrait mode in low light, you have to use the front screen flash. And the iPhone, the image just falls apart, whereas you get a really clean and consistent image on the Pixel 8, then followed by the Galaxy S24. Again, of course, you can, if it does capture enough information, take a standard selfie night mode on an iPhone 15, and if it gives you the option to add portrait mode, you can. But again, from the camera straight away, you do not have that option on the iPhone 15. The Pixel 8 and the S24 are going to give you the best results, and with the front screen flash, man, the Pixel 8 is looking clean. So last set of low light images with me in the frame as a subject with the rear cameras, and of course without night mode first, then night mode, and then the flash where it's relevant to, since I am in the frame as a subject. We're doing it with the standard pictures and then going over to portrait mode. And starting with the ultra wide, again, consistent to what we're seeing with the landscape, is the Pixel 8 all the way without night mode, cleaner image, better, and then followed by the Galaxy S24. Even though the image is softer, the exposure is a lot better, whereas man, I'm blended in. You cannot see me on the iPhone 15, barely. When we move over to the main wide sensor, again, the iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8, the colors and the accuracy is so much better. The image processing is just not favored on the S24 without night mode. I'll definitely give this to the Pixel 8, then followed by the iPhone 15. More work needs to be done when it comes to the processing for the S24 in low light. Now moving over to the 2X, it stays consistent. The image, when it comes to softness, really drops on the S24 and the iPhone 15. I still give it to the iPhone 15 based on the fact that the colors are a lot more accurate, but it's the Pixel 8 all the way that's winning this one. This is a good look for Google. And then 3X, of course, matching it all digitally with the 15 and the 8 to the optical of what you've seen in the S24. That 3X, again, doesn't have that much light coming in, and it is low resolution. So I'll definitely say the Pixel 8 is the one that takes it. The exposure is slightly better on the iPhone 15, but it comes at the cost of a grainier image. So I'm still going with the Pixel 8, but again, I wouldn't blame you if you prefer the exposure on the iPhone 15. Running it back, night mode. My goodness, the difference maker night mode makes to the ultra wide, especially on the iPhone 15, is literally night and day. You're using the ultra wide on the iPhone 15, use night mode. Please, it makes a huge difference. And even for the S24, use night mode because the color processing improves so much when you use night mode. Whereas the Pixel 8 is like, yep, I'm consistent all the way through with and without night mode. This is a good look on Google. And then moving over to the main wide sensor, again, the image processing is so much better on the S24. Again, still slightly off, still not as pain sharp accurate as what you're seeing on the iPhone 15 as well as the Pixel 8, but it's just improved so much where, yes, use night mode for the S24 when it comes to taking low light images on the main wide sensor, but greatly improved on the iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. Yeah, they really match up so close. It's hard to pick between them. Now, when we do move over to the 2X, the image is still softer on the S24. It holds up a lot better. The colors though in 2X is the most consistent out of all of them. So 2X night mode is a must for much better colors. Again, the image detail that you get on the Pixel 8 on point, followed by the iPhone 15. And of course, that matches up with the S24. In some ways, I do prefer the S24 over the iPhone 15. Now, the 3X mode. Yes, the 3X mode with the dedicated zoom sensor on the S24 improves, but it looks like an oil painting. Again, the processing is better, exposure is better, but again, it's not really the one in my opinion. It's really the Pixel 8, then followed by the iPhone 15. The consistency with the Pixel 8 here, my goodness, perfection. Now, running it back with flash. And I have to say, flash on the iPhone is very, very powerful. And in a lot of ways, flash on the iPhone is actually a bit too powerful, where they might have to give you an option to dial it in, but it's a good look because in terms of nighttime exposure, it works. And what you're seeing is the ultra wide for the flash works on the iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. For the Galaxy S24, it doesn't. And I think this is more of a software oversight because there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to use the ultra wide and the flash together. I think OnePlus had this issue way back as well. They might have fixed it, but Samsung still has this, and it's something that they could just update it and fix it. So just kind of putting it out there. Hopefully they see it and then they can just correct it in software. It's not something that needs to be done in the next version of a phone. This is something that can be easily updated and fixed. Now, when we're moving over to the main wide sensor, again, the flash on the iPhone is ridiculously powerful. Again, it just means that you can trust the exposure. I like the exposure on the S24, it's nice and subtle, whereas the Pixel 8 finds the best balance between the two. So this is more of a stylistic choice. Do you want the raw power of the iPhone 15? You want the subtleness of the S24 or the balance of what you're getting on the Pixel 8? I like the balance of the Pixel 8, but I think the flash photography on the iPhone 15 is crazy powerful. Moving over to 2X, again, the image on the iPhone 15 drops. The illumination is still very strong and consistent, which is what I like. The Pixel 8 though, chef's kiss, consistent throughout, really well balanced, whereas the S24 is more of a subtle stylistic look, which is something that I can also rock with, but the detail that you're getting on the Pixel 8 is really to be favored. And of course, in the 3X mode, the image drops in terms of sharpness even more on the iPhone 15, but the illumination of the flash is still consistent and powerful. Gotta give it to Apple on that one. Again, same with the S24, very subtle, and it does actually allow the colors to be more consistent. So I still think the flash with the 3X zoom is still better than the night mode, and without night mode, so still the best option for the S24. And the Pixel 8, yeah, perfect, really, really good. I'm so impressed with this particular one, the consistency through. So gotta give it to Google on this particular one. Even in a 3X, it does resolve and hold detail really well. Now let's move over to portrait mode, and again, we're gonna do it without night mode, and you can see the consistency of how the colors represent. The processing on the S24 just really misses it in my opinion, but what we're really trying to focus on is portrait mode performance, edge detection and blur. If we're really just isolating that for a moment, I would say that the S24 is probably the one that looks the best, followed by the iPhone 15, but that can really match up. Because the colors are more consistent on the iPhone 15, it's probably more pleasing overall to look at. The Pixel 8, in terms of portrait mode, I just think it needs more work overall. It struggled, it's hard to tell. Again, that's probably down to the exposure as well, so just something to consider. Moving over to the 2X, again, things stay consistent when it comes to that. So no difference when it comes to blur performance, edge detection. This is really between the S24 and the 15. I prefer the look of the S24, but again, you can say because the color is more consistent on the 15, it's preferred in that way. So more looking at the portrait blur and edge detection performance right there, it's the S24 and the iPhone 15. Then moving over to the 3X, of course, the image does become softer, but the edge detection and the blur is still really good on the S24. And of course, that's the one that allows you to do it out of the box from the camera, whereas the others, it has to capture enough information on the standard pictures in a 3X digital and then you can add the blur after. But out of the box, yeah, gotta give it to Samsung for allowing you to do that. Now, when we activate night mode for portrait mode, what you will see is that the iPhone 15 does not give you the option for portrait mode in night mode and low light. Again, this is the out-of-box camera UI experience. This is something you do get on the S24 and the Pixel 8, so it makes a huge difference, especially to the color processing of the S24, and the edge detection and the blur just looks really good on the S24. It looks a lot better on the Pixel 8, but again, it just feels over-exaggerated and not natural. You have got that limitation. Again, if you take a normal portrait mode or normal night mode portrait, a normal night mode picture, you can add the blur afterwards. But again, out of the box, you don't have that option on the iPhone 15. In the 2x mode as well, the image detail on the Pixel 8 is great. But again, if we're looking at the blur and the edge detection, it's still the S24, because if you look around my ears for the Pixel 8 and the iPhone 15, it misses it. With the Pixel 8, it misses it, whereas the Galaxy S24 is more consistent. So if we're judging the blur and the edge detection and the portrait performance, yeah, it's still the Galaxy S24. And of course, although the image does look like an oil painting with night mode with the 3x lens, again, if we're focusing on just the portrait mode performance when it comes to the blur, the look of it, the edge detection, the S24 still takes it, and it does allow you to do it in the 3x. Running it back for the last time, activating the flash for portrait mode, this is where you're gonna get the ability to use this in low light for the iPhone 15. With the flash, you can see it's very, very powerful. It does allow you to have the background blur in the 1x mode. I really like the look with the flash in portrait mode for the Galaxy S24 and the Pixel 8. Again, the Pixel 8, the blur on there in terms of performance is not something I really like. It missed my ear. I prefer it much more on the S24. In this particular situation, it did miss my ear as well. And overall, I will say the iPhone 15 takes a good one for this particular situation. In the 2x mode, again, the image sharpness does drop on iPhone 15, staying consistent, but on the blur, it's the S24 for me, and then the iPhone 15, then the Pixel 8. And then with the 3x mode, it does still maintain consistent performance when it comes to the background blur. This is something Samsung have really worked on that I really appreciate. Then followed by the iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. Let's wrap things up with the video performance of the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15, and the Pixel 8, starting with the front-facing camera. And in terms of the performance of all these three cameras, it is pretty much on par with performance up to recording in 4K 60 with great clarity, stabilization, detail, and everything that comes with it. But in terms of outright feature set, it's still in favor of the Galaxy S24 and the iPhone 15, because you can record a video portrait mode, cinematic mode, video front face, and blur, which is something you cannot do on a Pixel 8. Again, with the Galaxy S24, it does allow you to change the different effects and have different effects, and also the blur intensity while you're recording, which is something I really like. But I also appreciate that the iPhone gives you that flexibility when you are editing after you finish recording. Yes, it doesn't have the different blur effects, but you can change the blur positioning and the blur intensity in edit. So yeah, something to consider, which is something that is still limited on the Pixel 8. And for the rear-facing cameras, one thing I've always praised Samsung for is having the best 4K 30 FPS video recording experience on any smartphone, with the ability to switch between all the lenses on the rear and also pause recording and continue recording on the same clip, take pictures, and also flip to the front-facing camera. This is a level of flexibility that I really praise the Galaxy S24 every single time. Compared to the other devices, it's the most flexible that you're gonna get in 4K 30. When we move over to 4K 60, they have not made any improvements to the usability of 4K 60 on the Galaxy S24. What they've done is they've reserved that just for the S24 Ultra. You cannot switch between the lenses while you're recording on 4K 60 without having to stop recording, switch lenses, and start again. Yes, it's great you can still flip to the front-facing camera from the lens that you start with, but not having that flexibility makes no sense. This should not be reserved for just the S24 Ultra. The Pixel 8 does this the best. Yes, it can't flip to the selfie, but you can record on all the lenses at the back and also pause recording and continue. I still wish iPhones allowed you to pause recording and continue on the same clip, but at least you can switch between the lenses. And in terms of the smoothness of the lens switch from the ultra-wide to the main camera sensor and to the 2x digital crop, the iPhone is still looking the smoothest out of the three. This is a usability limitation that I'm really not happy here on the Galaxy S24. And I don't know whether this is down to the fact that there's a regional split between Exynos and Snapdragon. This is a non-issue on the S24 Ultra, and it shouldn't be an issue on the S24. This is something that they're probably going to save onto the S25 and not update it in post. Apart from that, the S24 does have great features like usable 8K 30 FPS video with no crop, great stabilization and colors. And of course, when you're doing portrait mode as well, this is something that is great for the video. You have much more flexibility. It records in 4K 30, and also the same for the iPhone, whereas the Pixel is limited to just 1080p 24 FPS with not that much flexibility to change it. Again, I still find it strange that the Galaxy S24 isn't using the dedicated 3x zoom when doing the video portrait mode. It's still actually cropping on the main wide sensor. Back in the day with the Galaxy S22 Ultra, it was using a dedicated 3x zoom. So again, they should be using a 3x zoom on the S24 when doing that. But overall, when it comes to the video performance, they're all great in their own way. But in terms of outright feature sets, flexibility, quality, yeah, it's down to the S24 and the iPhone 15, with the iPhone 15 having very smooth lens switching, whereas outright features on things like usable 8K and stuff, yeah, the S24 does a great job. Now that is it with this definitive camera comparison between the Galaxy S24, iPhone 15 and the Pixel 8. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's it for me, Ben from Lover of Tech. If you enjoy videos like this, you know exactly what to do. Hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're part of Team TLS, the Tech Lover Squad, so you don't miss any future videos on the channel. I hope you're all safe during this time. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.